Welcome to the SmartTechCheck Podcast, hosted by Mark Vina, your home for candid, insightful, and provocative conversations about the smart home automation, security, smartphones, PC and console gaming, and much more.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mark Vina, host of the SmartTechCheck Podcast. Today is Friday, April 1st, 2022, April Fool's Day. Yeah. Joining me for today's podcast is tech journalism's dynamic duo. I can't say three because our third party is on. He's got some personal conflicts. It's Stuart Walpin, who scribes for Popular Mechanics, U.S. News, Techlicious, Investopedia, and other fine publications. Rob Pegoraro, who writes frequently on tech policy for Wirecutter, PC Magazine, USA Today. And as I mentioned before, John Quain is out. He's got some personal stuff he's got to take care of. But anyway, gentlemen, good afternoon. How's your week going, and any plans for the weekend?
Final Fours, women and men.
I'm heading up to Boston to see family, so that's exciting.
That's good. Now, Stuart, I know you'll be at opening day next week, right?
Yes.
Rob, do you have?
When I was going to say, if we're going to do this podcast next Thursday, we're going to have to do it early because it's a 4:05 first pitch at Nats Park, and I do want to be in the stands for that.
Well, I'll talk to my producer, but I'm sure we can accommodate.
Mets colors.
Hey, listen, I didn't put it as a separate topic because with the three of us could probably talk about this for 4 hours. I have to get your opinion on what your view on the slap was. And did you watch it? I watched it live with complete shock, and I almost knew immediately it wasn't a stunt because ABC turned off the audio and you could see people's mouths move. I'm sure there was a producer's head that was exploding off camera. But Stuart, I'd love to get your view on what happened.
I think it was very interesting because I was watching it live and the cutaway was really interesting for long periods. And of course, it wasn't covered like a news thing, but I think the most interesting thing was that it was uncensored in a lot of other places around the world, like Australia. And almost as soon as it happened, from a pure tech point of view, a guy from Australia, I must have been DVRing it, recorded it and sent it out what actually happened live for the world to see almost instantaneously. So the conversation, because of tech, started right away, right after it happened, and dispelled the whole thing that it was a setup. Besides the fact that how would anybody know that she was going to come without a wig or something? So it couldn't have been a setup. But it was shocking that it was not censored. I don't think it was censored in Japan and certainly not Australia. And so the word got out very, very quickly about what was actually said and how often it was said.
So there is a tech aspect from this topic based on the fact that even ABC could not censor the material. Correct. I mean, essentially, that's what you're saying.
Well, they did, but they couldn't.
They didn't succeed. Rob, your thoughts? What were any?
I have none. I did not actually watch the Oscars. If you must know, I was playing Dungeons and Dragons online with friends. I have not watched it since. I have zero interest in this. I think people should not hit other people unless, I guess, they really deserve it. But really, I don't care. And I am so happy I did not write a single word about this ridiculous waste of everyone's mental processor cycles.
Well, when one of you win the Pulitzer Prize, I'm going to be in the audience.
It'll be a while.
Maybe in my next life.
Yeah.
The only thing I'll say about this, and then we're going to the next topic, is that on the scale, the Richter scale of offensive jokes, 1 to 100, 100 meaning that you really should hang the person, versus 1 was, come on, please, that's not like a knock-knock joke. This was probably a 6, maybe. And if Don Rickles was alive today, right, they would have to put him in jail.
Don Rickles wouldn't have a career today. Funniest guy I ever saw live.
Anyway, I listen. We could have a separate podcast on Rickles because I adored Rickles, and maybe I shouldn't say that because it's not politically correct. But
me too.
He's a good guy.
I adored Rickles also.
Let us hit the first topic, and got to get your opinion on this because it was a pretty big week in the PC space. Intel finally unveiled its Arc brand of discrete graphics. Very, very, for the mainstream user, it may not be quite as apparent, but the PC space has really been controlled by 2 companies, really, NVIDIA and AMD, for years and years and years. Intel really had the processor side of the business, and they still do a very commanding share of the traditional processor business. They have chipsets and things like that with embedded graphics, but this is a big deal for them, and there's a lot of interesting capabilities that they're bringing to market, chiefly which is a feature called Deep Link, which uses the accompanying processor, like an Alder Lake processor, to leverage some of the AI and smart capabilities to make the both solutions work in tandem. This is a very high level description in a much more efficient, optimized way. But Stuart, I know you've got a bit of a PC background, I should say. What did you think of the announcement? And do you believe that Intel is going to have some success in the area?
Well, like Rob's opinion on the Oscars, I have very little. I am not a gamer, and so the whole graphic side of the PC business has very little interest to me as a mainstream topic. However, two aspects of this did intrigue me. The first is the potential boost that this gives to AV1, which is widely has been widely applied. Most hardware manufacturers use AV1, the compression standard, the codec, that is open standards from AOM, but it really hasn't got a lot of traction amongst people who create content, video content. So this may actually give it a boost versus HEVC, which has been widely adopted as the next generation after H.264 as the premier or standardized codec. So the boost that this will give to AV1, I think, is somewhat significant. The second thing.
Let me just jump in for a second, Stuart. But and that's the thing and it's not your fault because you're a good guy. There's a bit of a misperception that graphics is only a gamer type of application.
Oh no! I'm not saying it is that it isn't. It's just of little interest to me. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. And the primary part of their presentation was on gaming. Yes. I understand that it has broader applications, which is what I'm going to get to the second part. The second part that intrigued me was the Peter Jackson part of it, which was the ability to upgrade old video the way Peter Jackson has with the World War I film that he did and with Get Back / Let It Be. I have a friend of mine right now who's doing me a huge solid by transferring tapes of old home movies that I had on VHS, High 8, and DV into digital video. And of course the quality is awful, and knowing that the technology that this chip or this process will enable me to fix up that video is enormously intriguing. There are any numbers of businesses such as Legacy Box which will probably make huge use of this as well to bring back old memories and bring them back to life. I think this is a tremendous advance for mainstream consumers.
Right. And I believe, and that's really what I was trying to get at, is that the upscaling, the video optimization potential with their technology, especially marrying it with the processor is a big deal. And they didn't show it. I don't believe they showed it during their announcement video.
They showed a couple of minutes of it. So it will revitalize old TV shows, and stuff that's got an old videotape. So the entertainment channel, will be able to revitalize a lot of the old Perry Mason episodes, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Rob, any thoughts?
So the thing I was really hoping to find out from this 19-minute presentation was, will this thing let me play Flight Simulator on a laptop that isn't some, 10-pound gaming laptop? That I would like to find out. And so I'll have to see. And it is obviously on laptops now. There's that Samsung Galaxy Book that's shipping with this thing. So I guess this is another thing I've got to factor in whenever I replace the well-maintained 2017 vintage HP I have.
Well, what's interesting is that there's multiple iterations of their processors that take advantage of CPUs with more power, more watts, and the desktop versions won't be available till later in the year, which is where gamers are probably going to migrate. Although there are very beefy laptops that use high-end discrete graphics as well. And I suspect very strongly, Rob, that the Flight Simulator will be one of those applications that will get because it's a really good desktop showing off playing the latest version of Flight Simulator which they just refreshed about a year ago, if I recall.
Yeah.
It really looks very cool.
Machine they can play it.
Yeah, well, I suspect it'll be one of those applications on there that because it just shows off graphics in a very compelling type of way. So, in any event, I think it's a big deal. I'll just conclude this with saying that it was interesting during the briefing that I got earlier in the week, and then they didn't really talk about it too much during the 19-minute briefing or the review on Wednesday. They didn't really. Intel was very mum on benchmarks. They didn't say, hey, the Series A is going to perform X against the NVIDIA XXX or the AMD Radeon XXX. And I think they did that for good reason, because they want the benchmarks that will inevitably come out from Tom's Hardware Guide and all the other publications, The Verge, et cetera, et cetera. They really want those numbers to speak for themselves. Unlike what happened a few weeks ago, where Apple's still getting pummeled, a bit for misleading representation of their comparison with M1 Ultra versus the NVIDIA. I think it was a 3090, if I'm not mistaken. So. I'm hoping that the ultimate graphics performance will live up to the potential of this new entrance to the market. So it's going to be interesting. Let us hit the next topic here, and that is, there we go. This is going to be a fun one. Got to start with Rob on this. I have to chuckle when I just read the headline. Meta hires a firm publicly to malign TikTok, and they were accusing TikTok of the same behavior. So, Rob, this is a softball right down the middle of the plate. Go ahead.
There's a great piece in the Washington Post by Drew Harwell and Taylor Lorenz about how Facebook, in their continuing attempt to, win friends and influence people in Washington, hired the Republican-leaning firm Targeted Victory to trash talk TikTok and get people to think of, oh, this is the social media company you can't really trust. And it was pushing up all these fake stories you've seen about, oh, TikTok is getting teens to do this horrible thing and that horrible thing and the other horrible thing, all of which were basically urban legends, not that different from the kind of things that, probably our parents worried about in prior decades. The cherry on this particular Sunday came just yesterday when Facebook revealed that, oops, we had a bug in the newsfeed ranking that instead of suppressing toxic content and misinformation was amplifying it for 6 months. So the very things that Facebook was trying to get people worried were happening at TikTok were actually happening at Facebook. So great job, guys. Hope you consider that money well spent.
It just makes when I hear stories and read about stories like this, I'm just like, I don't get it. I can't wrap my head around it. But when you've got the kind of dollars and resources that Meta has, there's always a temptation, and they'll find a way to rationalize this behavior. It's just, not a good look for Mr. Z. Stuart,
Yep.
Your thoughts?
Human behavior never ceases to amaze me. The fact that the rumors, the devious licks, which was to vandalize schools and to slap a teacher, these all started on Facebook, and then they turned around and started blaming it on TikTok. I can't tell you how many stories. This was an effective campaign, because all you heard on the local news and even some national programs was this story that TikTok was harming children. This made a huge amount of rounds. I heard it on numerous occasions, and every time I heard it, I kind of scrunched up my eyes and went, you want to give us some examples of this? Because all they were very amorphous stories, and they all seemed to be came out of nowhere and seemed to be happening at the same time. And I'm not on TikTok. I'm not on Facebook. So, another thing I really just don't care about, at least from a user point of view. But this whole thing smelled to me from the very beginning, since I know that TikTok had been trying to dig itself out of the negative publicity it was getting. And so this comes to me almost as not that much of a shock, but it's still, the chutzpah is Unreal. You were talking about scales of 1 to 100. This is 120 chutzpah.
Just before we leave and hit the next topic, how do you stop? Can you stop it? I mean, can you stop this kind of stuff from happening?
Well, this is the discussion that's been going back for a couple of years already. And the problem is those algorithms and whether or not Congress can step in and do something to regulate what algorithms can do. I think the entire problem, other than the lack of curation of users, are these algorithms. That's what's really doing the bulk of the damage in my eye.
Rob?
Well, that's the point I've seen multiple stages Facebook whistleblower for how can make, which is that Facebook's problem is they keep pushing groups, which, everyone does it. Right now, I can't figure out how to get the Twitter app on my iPad to stop telling me to open a community. I don't want to. I don't need to recreate Usenet. Leave me alone. And so Facebook keeps pushing groups suggesting this and that, which are, harder to police and really take Facebook away from what it does well, which is let people look at pictures of kids and pets. And food. It's really all I need. The rest of it, I could take it or leave it. But everyone's got to have their engagement. And we should not forget, TikTok, there are issues we should look at. Certainly the ownership of it by a Chinese company that is probably in limited ability to say no to the Chinese Communist Party on issues of national security. Its algorithm may or may not serve up great stuff. I should note I have a TikTok account. I haven't actually opened the account in at least a month. And fortunately for everyone, I have not posted anything on TikTok.
Right.
No one needs to hear me sing.
What about dance?
Even less.
Now, Rob's the type of guy that when he goes to McDonald's, he takes a picture of his hamburger and puts it on Facebook.
McDonald's, no, but maybe
Wendy's.
If it's the right In-N-Out burger, perhaps.
In-N-Out burger. I was about to say
In-N-Out burger next to LAX, and there's a picture of a plane landing in the background. Then I'll post a picture of a fast food burger.
I have a T-shirt. I have that T-shirt.
Yep.
That would be interesting. Let's hit the next topic here. This is interesting. It kind of hit me at home because, I live at a place called Santana Row in San Jose, and there's an Amazon store directly across the street from my building. It's been there for, as long as it was one of the first stores that popped up. And I never bought a single thing there, but I would return stuff all the time there. It was the ultimate inconvenience. So, I mean, for me, it's going to be an inconvenience. Now I got to go find a place like a Kohl's or the other lockers or the other places that Amazon has in place. But what are your thoughts on this? I mean, do you think Amazon views this as a failure that they couldn't get they couldn't rationalize these brick and mortar stores? Sure.
It's interesting in DC, they had a very prominent location right on M Street in Georgetown, really expensive property, took forever to open. And, I stopped by there a couple of times. I didn't actually buy anything because getting to Georgetown, parking is a pain. If you're going to bike there, you've got an uphill ride to get back to my house. But it seemed to be well populated. Lots of people streaming by because newsflash, people like browsing bookstores. And now that is closing. And I trust the remaining indie bookstores in DC, like Politics and Prose and Kramer Books or whatever, are going to do a little down dance on the grave of this retail property. But of course, Amazon still does have their Just Walk Out stores. They're opening one near their HQ2 property in Crystal City here in Arlington. And they've got a few others. So they're still doing that. But yeah, it's a reminder that Amazon is not, in fact, omnipotent or unstoppable. Some things it's just not that good at.
Right. Well, hey, retail is a tough business. Margins are tough. That's the fascinating thing that I think most people who are not in the technology industry or the retail industry or consumer products for that matter, they don't understand the challenges that retail has. Everybody wants to sell at retail. And I think to your point, Rob, I think their experience with brick and mortar, that even the vaunted Amazon engine, which, seemingly can't fail at anything, we're talking about 84 stores, if I'm not mistaken. It wasn't a humongous number, but nevertheless,
68. I think it was 68.
68. Well, I mean, again, that's not a big number. I mean, that's not even two stores a state, in the United States. So going to be an interesting type of thing, but I'm sure Jeff Bezos will find something else to excite America about over the next few months here. Let's hit the last topic here, and that is, and this is a really cool one. Quantum battery technology. It has the potential for charging EVs in 3 minutes. Again, there's lots of caveats, provisos wrapped into that statement, but it certainly has lots and lots of potential, which I think obviously would be welcome once these type of battery charging stations using this kind of or the battery technology itself shows up in cars. Rob, let me start with you. Your thoughts on? Do you think this is something that we'll see within the next
we'll
year?
see is the right phrase. I mean, this is why, like, I'm happy that our now 12, 13-year-old Toyota Prius keeps on trucking along, because the longer I can wait to replace this, the more battery technology and charging infrastructure will improve. I think at this point, it is probably more a matter of, deploying the technology we have that works now. Faster, really high-tech charging that doesn't work in all the cars already on the road and doesn't work in the charging stations already out there. Maybe not so useful outside of like fleet uses. If you could recharge a bus, or for that matter, a streetcar, that quickly, that could do a lot for public transit and for the infrastructure around it. That's something to watch.
Right.
Long haul trucking, we'll have to see. Again, it's, what effect will this have if you can only deploy it in a few places? And that points to more like fleet uses and not so much the mass market, which already, I mean, if you're looking at a hike up, what is it, level 3 or whatever, it's pretty quick charge. It's not like, oh, you're going to have to wait for your Tesla to charge. And by the time you're back at the car and you've adjusted the seatbelt, whatever, you're back up to 8%.
Stuart, your thoughts?
Well, it was always very curious to me, the logistical change that EV would bring in a world where you could stop at a gas station and refill your car in like five minutes. And the fact that you had to make sure that your car was charged at home and then go out, hope maybe to find a charging station somewhere out in the world in case you were going on a long haul, or you had to plot your trip, to where the charging stations were. This technology has the potential to create a whole new class of gas station where you simply pull in, you plug in for 3 seconds or 5 seconds, whatever it's going to be, and then you're on your own again. I think this completely changes the equation for a lot of consumers who may have hesitated because of the EV planning involved for charging. If they know they could just go out and stop at, an Exxon station or, or a Shell or just everyday Luca oil, that they could just stop at a gas station and quickly refill their battery. I think that's a huge paradigm shift in the way that the mainstream consumer views electric cars. I think the biggest fear of electric cars now is I'm on the road and my battery dies.
Yes. No,
and I think that removes that entire issue. And I think if they manage to get this out there in expeditious fashion, to really change the paradigm.
Now, EV range anxiety, which is, I think, the exact phrase that people like to use, is really the number one concern with people. I mean, cost is always an issue as well, but this could solve that. Now, very quickly, have you guys dived into the cost implications? How does quantum technology compare? Obviously, there's a scale component. Anytime you make something,
it's so far out there. I mean,
and it gets to a volume level of cost.
It's right. It's too far out. The stories that I've read on this, they haven't even said when they think this will happen. That right now it's still in, we can do it. The point at which they will actually get it out into the marketplace, I wouldn't be surprised if it's 5 years, if it, maybe even longer. That's just
this makes
gets out of my behind.
Put this in a consumer electronics context. When people talk about TV technology, micro LED will change everything. Well, no, it won't, because it'll take so long.
Right.
Yeah. Now, and the other advantage to this, if I'm not mistaken, we're talking about the battery technology itself. This would not necessitate a replacement of charging stations. The charging stations should be able to work with these quantum batteries. The battery composition technology is changing, but not the. You don't have to replace every charging station across the country to support quantum batteries. Correct?
I thought it was the other way around, because from what I understand, the way the technology works is that right now EV batteries, which are comprised of multiple cells, that the cells charge in sequence. And the idea behind the quantum technology is a laser technology that charges all the cells simultaneously. That's where the speed is coming in. So I believe it is the charger, not the battery. But again, you could be right and I could be wrong.
Yeah, Rob, do you know? Rob?
John would know.
Well,
we lost Rob.
We just lost Rob. His audio was getting kind of funky here. Anyway, but
I wanted to go back for a second on the Amazon thing really quick.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
I think the nail on it said, did you see the Saturday Night Live bit that they did on the Amazon Go store where oh, you have to go see this. It's hysterical. All the African American performers on the show go into an Amazon Go, and they said, oh, you can just walk out, and they're very distrustful, and they think they're going to get arrested as soon as they walk out of the store. It's hysterical. It was like a month or so, or 3 weeks or so. You should definitely look it up. It's hysterical and plays directly to this. And I think people simply distrusted the whole idea of walking in and walking out of the store without paying for something, especially the African American community.
Well, right after I get off the podcast, I'm going to watch that, because I generally do watch the first 10 minutes of SNL, right, because they generally do something relatively funny. Sometimes they strike out as well. But anyway, we'll have to catch Rob next time. He's probably off on his plane ride already. But thanks again, Stuart, for surviving to the end of the podcast. Thanks for taking the time to join me for today. And to our viewing and listening audience, thanks for making the Smart Tech Check podcast part of your day or commute. Please make sure that you hit the like and subscribe buttons at the end of today's podcast. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Mark Vina Tech Guy. If you haven't already, please make a donation to the Red Cross or your preferred charity to help the brave people of Ukraine in their time of need. And until next time, have a great week, and go Yankees, Stuart.
Go Mets.
I'll talk to you later. Bye.